Brazil beach horror. A teenage girl lost her leg to a shark just one day after an 11-year-old boy was brutally attacked at the exact same coastline in Brazil. Two horrifying shark attacks in less than 24 hours have turned Brazil's beaches into a nightmare zone. Now let's dig deeper into the story and uncover what really happened on our AI
In the
podcast.
ocean, the line between absolute safety and an active hunting ground, it's not a physical barrier at all.
No, not at all.
It's often just, well, a matter of inches. We are so conditioned to think of the shoreline, that knee-deep, waist-deep water where you cool off on vacation, as basically human territory.
Right, like a swimming pool with sand.
Exactly. But biologically speaking, it just isn't. Today, we're doing a deep dive into a stack of sources documenting this deeply unsettling reality down in Pernambuco, Brazil.
Yeah, it's an incredibly intense situation down there.
It really is. Stepping into the shallows there means unknowingly entering the overlapping territories of two entirely different species of apex predators.
Which forces a complete recalibration of how we view the edge of the ocean, honestly. Ecologically, it's an active transition zone.
And the consequences of ignoring that transition zone are just staggering. We've got news reports, hospital updates, statements from local government officials, all outlining these back-to-back catastrophic shark attacks on two young people.
Like consecutive days, right?
Yes, consecutive days, on the exact same stretch of coastline. So our mission for this deep dive is to move past the shocking headlines. We really want to understand the human reality of these attacks, the heroic rescues, and the deeply ingrained history of danger here. Okay, let's unpack this.
To understand the sheer gravity of what's happening in Pernambuco, we really have to examine the timeline.
Right, the timeline is key.
The compression of these events is what makes them so medically and, well, biologically significant.
So let's establish the facts from the reports. It's a Sunday afternoon at Piedade Beach. 11-year-old Wild Lucas Castor Nemesio Sales is in the shallow water.
Just waiting, basically.
Yeah, just waiting with his relatives. And suddenly, he is struck by what marine experts later identified as a bull shark. The attack is just swift and devastating.
It's heartbreaking.
It is. He's pulled from the ocean, having lost his left leg.
And then the environment just demonstrates this extraordinary level of volatility because less than 24 hours later, the pattern repeats.
Less than a day later, Monday afternoon.
Right.
Just down the coast at Boa Viagem Beach, 19-year-old Marcela Vitória de Lima Santos is swimming, right in front of a crowded beach.
Broad daylight, lots of people.
Exactly. She's attacked. But this time, the sources indicate it was a suspected tiger shark. And tragically, she also loses a limb.
It's just horrific. And when you process these two events together, the traditional narrative of a shark attack just completely falls apart.
Like the idea of a single, confused animal bumping into a human by mistake.
Exactly. What's fascinating here is the biological significance hidden in those species identifications. We aren't dealing with a single rogue shark wandering into a populated area.
Because it's two different species.
Right. The involvement of a bull shark on Sunday and a tiger shark on Monday, it points to a systemic environmental danger zone.
Which makes sense because they have completely different hunting patterns, right?
Precisely. Bull sharks are physiologically unique. They can tolerate fresh and brackish water, so they actively seek out murky, shallow surf zones.
Oh, like where runoff meets the ocean.
Yes, exactly, because that's where their prey gets disoriented. Tiger sharks, on the other hand, are coastal scavengers. They're edge hunters, known for patrolling the drop-offs just beyond the reef or sandbar.
Wow. So for both of these totally distinct species to be actively feeding in the surf zone of crowded beaches within a 24-hour window, that means the coastline itself is functioning as like an intense biological magnet.
That's a great way to put it. The ecosystem is actively pushing apex predators into human territory.
It's like the ocean in this region is an invisible shifting minefield.
Right.
And the mines are these apex predators. A leisurely swim can instantly become a fight for survival. It's an ecological overlap, which makes stepping into that water an incredible gamble.
And when that gamble fails, the results are just immediate and catastrophic.
Yeah. If the water's the hunting ground, the sand instantly becomes a trauma ward. The sources detail a level of bystander intervention that is honestly both heroic and incredibly desperate.
The human element in the immediate aftermath is staggering. The psychological and physical toll on the families is profound.
Just look at the details from Zhao's rescue. His uncle, Valdemir Jose, had literally just stepped out of the water. He turns his back, hears a disturbance, and turns back to see blood in the surf.
Just
He
terrible.
runs straight into that water to pull his 11-year-old nephew out. And Zhao remained conscious through this entire ordeal. According to his uncle's statement to reporters, the young boy kept pleading with him. He said he kept asking me not to let him die.
God, the psychological trauma of that moment is unfathomable.
It really is.
And it highlights a critical reality of these attacks. The initial trauma is inflicted by the animal, sure, but the fight for life is entirely dependent on the humans on the beach.
We see the exact same dynamic the very next day. Marcela's cousin, Jonas Andre de Lima, is an off-duty lifeguard.
Thank goodness he was there.
Seriously. He realizes she is drifting further away and losing strength after losing her leg in the attack. He swims out into the surf, grabs her by the arm, and drags her back to shore, while others help pull her onto the sand.
But pulling them out of the water is only the first step.
Right, because the bleeding. The sources note that an anonymous off-duty doctor stepped in to apply a tourniquet to Marcela right there on the beach.
That anonymous doctor and that tourniquet represent the razor-thin margin between life and death in these scenarios.
The hospital director, Petrus de Andrade Lima, provided medical updates that really put this margin into perspective.
Yeah, the medical reports are grim.
Marcela arrived in profound hemorrhagic shock, and Zhao's condition was described even more bluntly. The director stated he arrived having lost all the blood in his body.
It's a miracle they survived the transport.
It really is. Both required leg amputations to survive. Zhao's school even launched a blood donation appeal on social media. And on top of that, they were fighting massive infection risks.
Oh, absolutely. The bacteria from the ocean entering a massive wound like that is highly dangerous.
Yeah, marine animal bites are notorious for that.
The medical mechanics of profound hemorrhagic shock explain exactly why that on-beach triage was so vital. When a major artery, like the femoral artery in the leg, is severed, the body begins losing blood volume at a catastrophic rate.
We're talking about, what, minutes?
Seconds and minutes, definitely not hours. The body just can't compensate for that kind of rapid fluid loss.
It just shuts down.
Exactly. The blood pressure plummets, oxygen stops reaching vital organs, and the heart ultimately fails. The human body simply cannot sustain that level of trauma while waiting for an ambulance to navigate through, heavy beach traffic.
So it really was the bystanders.
Yes. Bystander intervention, specifically the physical occlusion of arterial flow with an impromptu tourniquet, is the literal only reason these victims didn't die on the sand.
So what does this all mean? We have this incredible community response, uncles, cousins, off-duty doctors running into the surf. It's a massive testament to human courage.
Without a doubt.
But I have to push back a little and look at this from a structural standpoint. It's easy to focus on the heroism. But if this water is known to be this deadly, why were children and teenagers swimming there in the first place?
That is the million-dollar question.
Right. If a local highway had dozens of fatal or near-fatal car accidents at the exact same intersection, we wouldn't just praise the paramedics, we would rebuild the road or shut it down.
You're highlighting the core paradox of this entire situation. And to fully grasp that failure, we have to look at the historical data provided in the reports.
The statistics are chilling. Over the last 34 years, Pernambuco has recorded 84 shark attacks.
84? That's a huge number for one region.
And 27 of them were fatal. Plus, the attacks on Zhao and Marcela weren't even the first of the year. They were the third and fourth, following two other incidents just back in January.
And this brings us to how the local authorities are attempting to manage an inherently unmanageable environment.
Yeah, the policies are a bit confusing.
Very. The sources include statements from Denise Alves, the executive secretary of the State Committee for Monitoring Shark Incidents.
Just the fact that they have an entire state committee dedicated solely to monitoring these attacks is wild.
That alone indicates the severity of the problem. Alves explains that there is a strict official bathing ban in place, but only for a specific designated zone.
From the Bear Mares Hotel to Piedad Church, right?
Correct.
But wait, Zhao and Marcela weren't in that banned zone, were they?
No, they weren't. In the specific areas where these two attacks occurred, there is no official ban. The authorities rely entirely on warning signs.
Just signs.
Just signs. They post them along the beach, informing visitors that the area is subject to shark attacks and, advising them against swimming.
Warning signs. For an area that has seen nearly 100 attacks. And the historical echo in the sources makes the reliance on signage seem even more inadequate.
The history really repeats itself here.
It's eerie.
Mm-hmm.
Back in 2023, there were back-to-back attacks in this exact area, following the exact same pattern.
Same time of year, too, wasn't it?
Yeah. On March 5th, a 14-year-old boy lost a leg. The very next day, March 6th, a 15-year-old boy lost an arm.
Unbelievable.
Consecutive days, teenagers losing limbs. And now, the pattern repeats.
The cyclical nature of these events completely dismantles the idea that a shark attack is an unpredictable lightning strike anomaly.
Right, it's not a fluke.
Not at all. In Pernambuco, it is a documented, predictable pattern of environmental collision.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though, because it's tempting to put all the blame on the local government for just putting up signs instead of closing the beaches entirely.
Sure, they take a lot of the heat.
But the sources also delve into the human psychology of play, specifically the behavior of the tourists. There are these online reviews of these beaches quoted in the report, and they are wild.
Oh, the reviews are fascinating.
One visitor writes, "A very cool beach, unfortunately inappropriate for bathing because it is dangerous due to shark attacks, but still worth visiting."
Just casually mentioning the apex predators.
Right. Another states, "The beach is beautiful, but you cannot swim because of the presence of sharks. We had to travel to beaches farther away."
It is a striking example of the disconnect between intellectual awareness and behavioral action.
It's an incredible level of cognitive dissonance. It's honestly like someone praising a beautiful view while standing on the crumbling edge of an active volcano.
That's a perfect analogy.
They acknowledge the lethal reality in writing, but they still prioritize the aesthetic experience of a location.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it explains exactly why those physical warning signs are a fundamentally flawed method of public safety in nature.
How so?
Well, when policy relies on a sign, it delegates the responsibility of safety entirely to the individual's real-time risk assessment.
Oh, I see. It assumes a human being on vacation is going to act like a perfectly rational actuary.
Exactly. It assumes people will read the text on the sign, process the statistical data of an apex predator attack, and make a logical choice to remain on the dry sand.
But people don't do that.
No, the human brain doesn't process risk that way, especially when confronted with competing visual stimuli.
Right, because the water is clear, the sun is shining, and they probably see dozens of other people wading in without any immediate consequence.
That visual cue of a serene, refreshing ocean triggers a normalcy bias. The brain decides that because the immediate environment looks safe, and because a disaster isn't happening right this second, well, the threat must be exaggerated.
So the visual processing completely overrides the textual warning on a wooden post.
Exactly. You simply cannot expect a tourist or an 11-year-old boy's family to accurately calculate the complex biological risks of an overlapping ecosystem while they are standing in 90-degree heat looking at inviting water.
It's just a recipe for disaster. The biology of the ocean and the psychology of the human brain are basically working against each other.
And the result is an 11-year-old fighting for his life in hemorrhagic shock.
Yeah, and the punishment for that miscalculation in risk assessment isn't like a sunburn. It's a catastrophic, life-altering physical trauma.
And that trauma ripples outward. It permanently alters the lives of the survivors, the families who had to pull them from the water, and those off-duty professionals who had to jump in and apply those tourniquets.
It is an incredibly heavy reality to process. When we step back and synthesize everything we've pulled from these sources today, we're really looking at a profound duality.
A duality between humans and nature.
Exactly. On one side, you have the indifferent brutality of nature. You know, the biological mechanisms that draw formidable predators like bull and tiger sharks right into the shallow margins of our world.
It's their territory just as much as ours, if not more.
Right. But on the other side, you have the awe-inspiring resilience and heroism of humanity. An uncle refusing to let his nephew slip away, a cousin dragging a family member through the surf, a doctor kneeling in the bloody sand to save a stranger's life.
It's remarkable what people will do in a crisis.
It really is. And for you, listening to this, it forces you to really examine how you navigate the world. How often do you step into a natural environment, assume it's been sanitized for your convenience, and completely fail to respect the untamed forces operating just beneath the surface?
This raises an important question, one that extends far beyond individual psychology or situational awareness.
What's that?
Consider the terrifying cyclical repetition of history documented in these sources. We have teenagers maimed on consecutive days in March 2023 at this exact location.
And now the timeline has repeated itself with devastating precision.
Right. So at what point does a local government's reliance on partial bans and warning signs transition from a policy of informing the public into a state of gross negligence?
That's a heavy thought.
When the biological reality of a coastline proves to be incompatible with human recreation, where exactly is the line between a citizen's personal responsibility to read a sign and the state's fundamental duty to close the beach entirely?
Wow. It is a haunting question.
Yeah.
And until that line is firmly established by the authorities, that beautiful stretch of Brazilian coastline remains an active overlap of ecosystems.
A very dangerous one.
Yeah. A place where the pursuit of leisure collides violently with the reality of nature.
Okay, one
leaving
question
just
for you.
inches beneath
How
the
are
surface.
repeated shark attacks continuing to happen on these Brazilian beaches despite warning signs already being placed in the area? And should authorities now completely ban swimming to prevent more devastating injuries and deaths? Don't forget to comment it. Thanks.